Hey there, welcome back to New Horizon Updates on YouTube. We've got some fresh news for you today. So check this out. Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, just dropped a bombshell on his troops. He's telling them to pack their bags because they'll be seeing Palestine from the inside in no time. This is a part of a bigger plan to take down Hamas. Israeli soldiers are popping up all over the country, getting ready for what looks like a ground op. Benny Gantz, who used to run the defense ministry and is now in Israel's new security cabinet, doesn't think this is going to end anytime soon. He's worried we might see a full-blown war that's not just going to stay in Gaza. In a twist, the Israeli government has pulled out their peeps from embassies in a bunch of countries nearby, like Bahrain, Jordan, Morocco, Egypt, and Turkey. They've even told 20 other Israeli embassies, especially in Europe and Latin America, to stay put cause of safety worries linked to this whole mess. Despite some good vibes about maybe setting up a humanitarian corridor at the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, Gaza is still on edge. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other bigwigs are bracing for a long and tough fight against the Palestinian armed groups. Israel's got tens of thousands of soldiers ready to march into Gaza. It's also been confirmed that 203 Israelis have been nabbed in Gaza, and around 100 are still MIA. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is hinting a ground assault is coming up soon, led by Israeli forces parked along the Gaza border. In response, Palestinian armed groups are saying they're ready for a long haul and warned they'd turn Gaza into a real nightmare for Israeli forces. They're claiming they've got things under control and they're going all out to protect Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Before all this, Alex Younger, who used to head MI6, gave his take on the situation, pointing out that 2014 to 2020 was a pretty big deal in intelligence history. So there's this guy, Alex Younger, who used to be the boss at MI6. He had a chat with the BBC, and he reckons that Hamas might be playing a sneaky game in Gaza. They're trying to trick Israel into a pricey ground attack. Alex warns Israel not to fall for this trap, as it's exactly what Hamas wants. He sees Hamas rubbing their hands with glee if Israel decides to launch a full-on ground invasion. It could stir up all sorts of trouble and drag Israel's buddies into a big ol' mess. This whole Israel-Hamas rivalry heated up on October 7th when this group, Hezbollah, or Hezbollah if you prefer, fired off some guided missiles and artillery into Israel. Ever since, it's been a proper tit-for-tat with the violence just revving up. Now, folks are wondering if Hezbollah might throw their hat into the ring. Hezbollah's been around since the early 80s. They got their start with a little help from their friends in Iran, and their main goal was to kick Israel out of Lebanon and counter Western influence in the Middle East. Nowadays, Hezbollah sees itself as a resistance movement for the Shia Muslim crowd in Lebanon, while still pledging allegiance to Iran's main man, Ali Khamenei. Now, Hezbollah and Hamas aren't exactly two peas in a pod. They have different ideological roots. Hamas is a Sunni Muslim outfit, while Hezbollah's belief system is rooted in Iran's Shia Muslim revolution. They've had some disagreements, like when Hamas didn't back President Bashar al-Assad's government during the Syrian civil war. But still, they do have common ground. Both groups, along with Iranian security bigwigs, are in agreement about opposing any chummy relationships between Arab or Muslim states and Israel. Recently, there's been footage of Hezbollah soldiers training with precision weapons up in the mountains of Lebanon, which might mean they're beefing up their military game. They've also learned a thing or two in Syria, where they supported President Assad. Hezbollah's home base in southern Lebanon is now safe and sound, thanks to a massive network of tunnels and storage spots. They've got a pretty impressive collection of long-range missiles that can hit targets all over Israel. Those could seriously mess up Israel's defense systems, wreck infrastructure, and hit populated areas. Lately, there's been some trouble brewing along the Israel-Lebanon border. There have been fights and casualties, with Israel hitting back at any threats. On October 17th, an anti-tank missile from Lebanon landed in the Israeli town of Metula. Israel's defense forces hit back with artillery and airstrikes, and some along the border had to be evacuated. If Hezbollah's top dogs decide to escalate the current low-level hostility, it could trigger a two-front conflict that Israel really doesn't want. But the fear is that a small miscalculation could blow up into a huge, devastating regional conflict. And with U.S. forces hanging out in the eastern Mediterranean, seemingly with their sights on Hezbollah and Iran, that risk seems very real. Hezbollah's spokesperson has said their recent actions are a warning to Israel, and their top officials say the conflict could spread even further. Now, the ongoing fight between Israel and Hamas is spreading, and it's making countries like Australia and the UK pretty nervous. They've already issued warnings. Despite the whopping 12,000 kilometers that separates Australia from Gaza, the Israel-Hamas conflict has been giving Aussies a hard time. The bond between folks in Australia and those in Israel and Palestine is so strong that the government down under is pouring efforts and resources into making sure everyone stays safe. So far, they've managed to get over 1,500 Aussies out of Israel and into Palestinian territories. But that's not all. The Israel-Hamas fight is causing a stir within Australia's Muslim and Jewish communities, which are pretty big, with over 476,000 and 118,000 members, respectively. And there's a risk that some troublemakers might take this opportunity to cause mayhem. To nip that in the bud, the Aussie government has put $50 million towards upping security in 177 key spots, including synagogues, schools, and community centers linked to these religious communities. The turmoil between Israel and Hamas is also hitting Australians in the wallet, causing living costs to rise, so the government's trying to keep inflation in check. They're also worried that the U.S. might get so caught up in the Israel-Hamas conflict that they'll take their eyes off other hotspots like Russia and Ukraine, which might lead to some problems in the Indo-Pacific region where Australia is trying to keep things balanced. How long and how far the Israel-Hamas conflict goes could affect how much the U.S. gets involved. Meanwhile, over in the U.K., the Foreign Office is warning Brits against traveling to Lebanon because of all the instability caused by the Israel-Hamas conflict, and they're even having to get the relatives of their embassy staff out of Lebanon due to the dodgy security situation. Hey there, thanks for hanging out with us. We're truly stoked you took the time to watch our video. Hope you had a good time. Don't forget to smash that like button and slap subscribe to keep up with more of our crazy cool content. You being here means the world to us. Once again, you're awesome.